Hey everybody, welcome back to A Brief on Grief. Today, talking about something a little different. I'm still kind of processing it in my head, so I'll talk and process. Um, Lately, as what was going on in the last video, where I was talking about a lot of shifting and rumbling and change is loss. So loss going on in my life. The rumbling still continues, but it feels, in one area of my life, it feels a little different now. And I'm realizing that there's kind of a little bit of a shift, I think, and a grieving process going on in me when, after making a decision that I'm finally ready for a new adventure in my area of work, in like changing different areas, basically trying a new team in the hospital to work at. And it's interesting that once I made that decision a couple weeks ago, the process that I've been going through, it's kind of like I'm grieving kind of, even though the change hasn't occurred at work yet. So the loss hasn't occurred at work yet. I'm still in a process of loss in and change in my body, and in realization that I've cut, like, where I'm changing, where I know, where I've grounded in my body, knowing that I'm ready to move on and ready to try something different. So there's like a shift going on in my body even before the shift is happening at work. So it's interesting. So it just made me think about grief and loss a little differently. And it kind of made me think actually about like death. Like if you were with, say somebody you cared about was sick and you were watching them kind of slowly lose their health more and more until they passed away, and how the people that I've talked to in situations like that have shared that there's so much grieving going on like way before the person actually passes on, right? Because there's so much loss in the relationship, and you're seeing them grieve so much, so it's affecting you, of course, and it changes the connection and everything you have with them, and maybe changes the way you are present for them there. Maybe you're stepping into more of a caregiver role. So anyway, there's just so much change and so much loss going on before you actually physically maybe lose a person to death. And this actually kind of reminds me of this situation right now, and that there's loss and change going on right now for me, even though I haven't yet switched positions at work. Other thing I realized, which is, it feels new and unfamiliar, but calming to me, because I feel like the old me, like a couple of years ago, in the situation that I'm in now, I feel like I would have tried to make it different and make it better for me, or change something, at work, to see if I would be happier or feel more settled there right now. But I kind of did like a little bit of those in the time, in the, more than a year that I've been there. And the calmness that I feel in my body now just feels like I'm okay to let go calmness. Like, I'm okay to let this go where it's at. I'm okay to try something new, even though I don't know what that's going to be or when that's going to happen. But just that calmness of knowing that I'm okay with this change, instead of like maybe fighting it before, like fighting, thinking I had to do more. Because it reminds me, like, because I've done that not only in relationships with myself, with jobs, but also in relationships with other people, like pushing, like, is there something else I can do better? Is there something else I can do more? Is there something else I can try that I haven't tried before? Like the big problem solver mode I go into. And I mean, I've talked in previous videos about that, and I've learned over a couple of years that that's like can be a trauma behavior when we're trying to control a situation and fix, because we can't bear the loss of it, right? So I think the way this is feeling for me now, and the way I'm processing it now, I believe is very different than the way would have done a couple of years ago. Again, this the superpower of being aware of grief and loss, and becoming more comfortable with it, and it not being so foreboding, and just realizing how that feels different in my body right now. And even though it's not super triggering and sad and in grief right now, I realize it's still grief, because it's still a change that's happening. Even though it physically hasn't happened in the real world yet, it's still a shift in my body that I'm letting go of something. My heart and my body, my soul is no longer in where I'm in right now and knows that it's ready to move on. So it's like I'm going through that initial grieving process right now before the actual physical change in the real life happens. So I think it's really interesting, and I'm loving the newfound calm that I feel too in this situation, and the calm with not knowing when things are going to shift. All I'm doing is putting the intention out there that I'm ready for something new, and I'll just let the universe show up. I'll just let the universe bring those positions to me or bring those opportunities to me. We'll see what happens again. And that's like a new way of trusting and being at peace with change too for me. Is before, I think I would have been fighting to try to fix and see if I could shape something in a way that would make me feel better to stay where I was at, because I was so scared of not knowing what was ahead yet, right? How could I let go of this without knowing what was coming, right? And if that was going to be better or whatnot. And now I just have this, and to not know when, right? So the when and the what. But I don't know the when and the what right now. But I still have this calmness in me and this knowing that I'm ready to move forward, and that I'm letting go and grieving the current situation that I'm in. And being okay with that without knowing exactly what's ahead. And that's amazing. I don't have the words to describe how different that feels in my body versus the way it would have felt a couple years ago in this situation. So, and I feel like I would have spent so much extra energy, like making sure I was like 110% sure that I couldn't be at this position anymore, right? So I'm just thinking of the energy that I might have wasted, not, unnecessarily, right? Just because I was scared to let go and move to something that I didn't know what was coming for sure. So, but how lovely to learn a different way. Again, another area of life where this grief and loss and awareness is so important, is so empowering. Because I think a big part of loss is you feel kind of out of control, right? You feel like you're out of control and you're losing your energy and you're losing your power to not knowing what's happening and what's going to change and how you're going to handle it. But I feel empowered with this knowledge and then empowered with this calmness and trust of whatever's coming, whatever I'm going to shift into. And that's an amazing power that I never had before. I just love it. Again, that's why this whole journey, it's discovering new ways that this awareness of grief and loss is so powerful in life, and how it can really like lead to a path of amazing self-compassion and self-love when you're struggling, and in the end just opens your heart to yourself, and so that you can trust your feelings, Mylar. You can trust that you're going to get through things better, that there's like an entire world around, an entire energy field around that's actually supporting that. It's actually supporting me shifting and moving and it not being so painful. So it builds that trust that I never had before in myself and in this universe. So, and trust, huge thing. That goes all different areas. But I think I could ramble because I'm just thinking about this, but I think I've processed and shared mostly what I wanted to share today about this. So thanks everybody. I'll see you again next time.